Alright, I guess we're live. So, how do I share this now? Yeah, that's right. That's what we need to know. Upcoming. Okay, we are up here. Alright. Let's post this on Discord all over the place. Um, hide you. Community content. Paste. Yeah, we're doing it live. This has already taken substantially longer to set up than I'd hoped. But alright, we've spammed it a couple places. It's been at like one or two more places. And then we can start yapping. No, so this is I actually finally this has been kind of in the queue for a since January. This is like the second or third topic I wanted to talk. Actually, genuinely, this is explaining this that I'm about to talk about has been uh like capturing this idea is what made me want to create a YouTube channel to yap at the rules because it was just this stupid headache and this sort of half-baked idea that sort of like the official channels distributed, and then finally it made sense and I was like, okay, I want this to make sense for everyone else too, because it finally kind of clicked of, and apparently like this isn't even official. I'm about to lie to all of you, lie to chat. If you watch this, check with the judge to confirm that that's actually how they're going to rule it, because apparently Tim told me yesterday that I'm making a leap of logic in here that is not supported by the rules. That is, in fact, a hand wave and echoes a hand wave that Jessica Games made rather than fixing their rules properly like 6 years ago. Where's the channel I'm looking for that I can just like post shit? Okay, content promotion. There we go. Okay, ship it. All right, so there's that. Let's scroll back up here. All right, so let me see if I'm like position. Do I have a chat window somewhere? But let's turn the Java's back on because that's nice to have. Yeah, think about this crap. Hope that's still it's not too much. And hopefully I don't get like muted and demonetized over this too. But alright, what am I looking for? Chat. All right, so let's just get right into it. So I screwed up my whole framing device. All right. Today, I want to explain the rules for how cards move in Universus. And so we have a crappy little setup here. I'm going to be occluding some of these zones. We have little note cards that label the zones. Oh, this is very loud? Okay. We can fix that. How about now? Oh yeah, I've used this. This turned on like... Yeah, we have... Wait, actually, that's not even... Oh, it's... Oh wait, this is... Now, yeah, now there's no me. So I muted the mic off. I see the mic off is popping. I think it might be. Wait, okay. I think it might be that my. So I'm listening. Okay, we're just gonna not have music today. You are canceled. I think what might have been happening is that it was actually uh the music was loud enough in my ears that it was picking up on my earbud microphone and drowning out. And anyway, so okay, let's get into it. 'Cause I gave myself a time limit. I do have a meeting at the top of the hour here. Um, so I have here 100 lightning kicks, and this is the approximate reason why I'm here right now is that this card is worse than you think, as written, as the rules presently stand. Um, when So the way this card works is it's when it's cleared from your card pool during the combat phase, your rival loses 1 health. That's a static ability. It's a triggered effect. The game plays that for you when the conditions are met, and then it has a response after it leaves the card pool added to your hand. And so those are slightly different things you'll notice. So we have the verb after it leaves your card pool, and we have the verb after it is cleared from your card pool. And this might be an unintentional. Oh man, my gestures aren't all in frame. This might be an unintentional quirk of the rules that perhaps the person who wrote this down didn't notice. So in Universes, there are two important ideas with responses. So one of them is that different responses can match, so different words can match the same events, but then also different events happen at some different events happen at different times. And this is actually a case. This is a latter case where these are actually two distinct timing events. These are two different things that happen in the game that have to be responded to in sequence. In the same way that if I play an enhance, when I play it, that's one event, and then when the effect happens, that's a second event that happens strictly after all the stuff at the first event. So whenever you move a card in Universes, whenever you move a card, it starts out in a zone, and then it's pull my notes up just so I can look at this. Uh, so, and every zone has a name, and when you move a card, there's actually there's two important distinct steps. So first, we have what's called the transit zone, or I like to think of it as a bus. So if you when you get on the bus, when you move zones, you get on a bus, and the bus takes you where you're going. So the bus shows up here. I have a bowl. It's not going to work at all here. It's going to fall out. But you get on the bus. Goes from the pool to, for instance, the discard pile if you're clearing it. It comes with you. When you get on the bus, that's the first game event, and that is called the leaves event. So when it leaves your card pool, it triggers, and if you choose to respond to it, well, let's finish the story first. You get on the bus. Let's say we're not going to do anything special, or if we want to burn our opponent for one. What you have to do is you get on the bus, you ride the bus, and then you get off the bus into your destination zone. So you get in your discard pile. You've now cleared your card pool, because clearing is a verb that means it's a move from a source to a destination. So it's a full trip. When you get off the bus, the static triggers. Your opponent burns for one, then players get priority to play responses. Um, and if I have time, which I may or may not, we'll get to some of the subtleties, some of the weird edge cases. There's this idea that the bus is not a real zone. This is not a real place. This is a different kind of thing. The transit zone is a different kind of thing than the card pool or the staging area. Um, yeah, so we have two game events. We have the leaves the source zone, and we have the arrives at the destination zone. And you'll notice that. Oh, actually, I need another. See if we can import. Yes, perfect. So that's another example we'll get to in a second here. Let's double check that my frame is still reasonable. All right. If I zoom in on her, that is not. That is actually getting cut off completely. So let's scale that down and move her up here. There we go. Okay. So as I was saying, we are going to when you move a card, it gets on the bus and it triggers. So with 100 lightning kicks, the important thing you need to take away about this card is that this responds after you get on the bus. So when it leaves the card, it's in the card pool, it gets on the bus, and then players can respond to it leaving the card pool. And if you choose to play its response, discard one card after this leaves your card pool out of your hand, it then goes from the bus to your hand. It doesn't get on the bus a second time. I don't think. That's a weird edge case I've ever thought about. But it basically changes its destination, and now it arrives in your hand. And the important thing is that this static effect, after it is cleared, that now never happens. That fails to occur because it is never going to complete the journey from card pool to discard pile, and that's what the word clear means. We had this back in the day with, actually, it's yet another card that's not on the table right now. Balanced Fighter says, after I'm discarded. And that meant discard from the hand that moves from the hand to the discard pile. We have Learning to Harden. This is a contentious card, and we'll get into, yeah, so I think we'll get into exactly how that works. That'll be my next step. We'll talk about Learning to Harden and the journey of Learning to Harden. But what you need about Learning Kicks is that it has to go from the source to the destination. It has to complete the trip in order to trigger. So this only makes your opponent lose health when you clear it, and it actually goes to the discard pile when you don't replace the clearing action. You don't interrupt the clearing action by moving it to your hand. And there's a very cursed interaction that let's talk about the very cursed interaction next. So we have Hanta Sero. Let's get him in the frame. Uh, Importantly, this is discard one card from your rival's card pool as cost, and then we have held hostage. And the important relevant text of this is blah 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 blah. Remove this card when it leaves your card pool. So that's actually a replacement effect, or that's even not even a replacement effect, is it? But this is the same kind of thing. So this will be in my pool, and my character is Hantasero. You hit me with held hostage. I say I would like to clear that from your card pool to pay for my cost. I would like to move that from the card pool to the discard pile. This static effect is going to get in the way and say, oh, instead of going to the discard pile, I'm going to go to removed instead. And then the game has a hiccup and actually time travels you backwards and says, hey, you're not allowed to do that because that cost cannot be completed. This is an illegal card to kick out of the card pool. Weird little edge case. Let's talk about learning to harden. So this will be in my stage, and let's just walk through this. So when I destroy this, it's going to get on the bus. When I pay, let's say I sacrifice this to a cost like Aaron or Irwin Smith, 13th man of the story cord, just enhance the story foundation, blah blah blah. It gets on the bus. That's all fine. We might have a card that says after card leaves your staging area or something. That might happen, and then it will go to the discard pile. And now this verb destroyed, that means specifically we had an origin and a destination. It's moving from the stage to the discard pile. It's now arrived at its destination, and so it's going to respond. Let me respond and say, I'll draw a card. This in 2024 was a very contentious thing because, in a naive sense, if I turn this card face down, I get on the bus, I arrive at my discard pile. We know that there's. I'm not going to get into state refreshes. I really have no patience for that whole topic, to be honest. I don't know how that works. I don't know the details. Not going to talk about that today. But when it gets to the discard pile, it now is face up. We know it's face up, and it's arriving here at the discard pile. It has moved from the stage to the discard pile. Does it let you respond and draw a card? No, it does not. And the reason for that, I assert to you, is that we have this idea in Universus called scope. And the way I like to think of this is that when you get on that, so I haven't told you the whole story of all of the bookkeeping that Universus does when we're moving cards around. In fact, when you get on the bus, you get two things. Two things occur to your card. So the first thing is that it gets a ticket, and the ticket says, "Here's where I'm from, and here's where I'm going." So you board the bus. It says, "Okay, origin was the staging area, destination is the discard pile." And so that way, when you get to the discard pile, we know where it came from. We can say, "Well, was it destroyed, or if it was in my hand and I discarded it, it's arriving in the discard pile, but it came from the hand." So we know it doesn't let you draw a card, doesn't trigger. Is it destroyed when you discard it from your hand, or discard from your deck, or discard from any other zone? The other thing that happens is that you take a photograph of the card, and when you move from the stage to the bus to the discard pile, if it's face up, then the photograph is, hey, look, learn to harden. It says response after I'm destroyed, draw a card. If it's face down, the photograph is going to be this face down object, and we'll say we have to ask, well, before you can play that ability that's presently on your card, was it there before you left the stage? Was it there previously at the beginning of that response window? And if the answer is no, if it was sealed or if it was face down in the stage, then it's not available as a response to be played when it's arriving at its destination. This is kind of the idea in Magic the Gathering of last known information, I think. I'm super not an expert in Magic the Gathering rules, but it's kind of analogous to that. You have to have the ability where you were coming from. You have to have had the ability at the start in order to have it at the end. And this is distinct. This is well, my timer's ran off, but I'm going to give myself 6 more minutes to yap, and then I'll have to end the stream. This is a very distinct case from loss of consciousness, which says after this enters your discard pile during the enhanced step, seal one rival foundation. So if this is in my stage, if this is in my card pool, if this is face down, if this is in my deck, none of these matter. This is a short scope effect. This is arrives in the discard pile, so it is the same timing as destroyed because this is after I get off the bus is the way to think of this. Also, loss of consciousness response after I get off the bus, but it just enters the discard pile. That is a short scope. It is only that destination, does not have any reference to where it arrived from, and so this triggers regardless of the state of the card in whatever previous zone it may have been in. And that was the idea that kind of got me wanting to yap about these rules ages ago, and then I procrastinated, tried to say, let me make a good coherent script. Today we're doing it live because of 100 lightning kicks and this weird edge case. This kind of bizarre interface of how I understand this to work versus how it's maybe written or how you intuitively might expect it to work. So loss consciousness, different from learning to harden, behaves differently, and the reason for that, ultimately the reason for that is that, well, one responds to one responds to a long scope. It has the movement from the stage to the discard pile, whereas Lost Consciousness has the short scope. Or alternatively, another framing of this is that we don't want this to work this way, and so Universus Games is coming up with explanations for this. Why moving to the getting on the bus and then moving to the discard pile doesn't work if it's face down, but does work if it's face up, and Lost Consciousness doesn't have that grace. Ultimately, these are somewhat arbitrary combinations of words, just like all games. Um, One other topic in the space, we had a fun little interaction at Nationals this year that ultimately got overturned. This card Attitude Selector. After you discard or remove one or more cards from your hand to draw a card. On the floor, this was ruled that with Barrier Shields, when you play an action card, it moves from your hand. So whenever you play a card in general, it's generally in your hand, and then you move it to transit. You put it on the bus, and then from the bus, we're going to. That's when you actually make. It's actually in transit. It's on the bus when you're making your control check, and where it goes from transit it is determined by the success or failure of the control check. If I have 6 cards in my card pool and I try to play a Barrier Shield, I need an 8 difficulty. If I check a 1 on that, I might not have 7 foundations to make up that difference, and so it'll just go to so if I'm playing the bottom enhance, it'll go to the discard pile after I finish failing the control check. If I'm playing the top enhance though, before I can get to the point of making a control check, you pay all other costs first, and so the life of a Barrier Shield is it starts in your hand. You decide, hey, it's my turn to play an enhance. I'm going to play the enhance on Barrier Shield. I'm going to enhance, remove, reduce attack speed to 0 if it works. So then you move it to you take it from your hand, you put it on the bus, you put it in transit, and then you pay the costs. So the cost is remove. So now from here, it's going to go to the remove from game pile, and then you're going to finish playing the card. It's going to apply its effect from the remove from game pile. Um, and this is why the behavior of these two enhances is slightly different. If you fail the check for the top enhance, it's already removed from the game. But if you fail the check for the bottom enhance, it's still in transit as you make the control check, and so it'll go to the discard pile if you fail the check for just the enhanced colon bottom enhance ability of this card. Uh, but so the important interaction here is, well, how about attitude selector? This says response after you discard one or more discard or remove cards from your hand, draw a card. And this is actually this is surprisingly more instructive than you might expect. So at Nationals, it was ruled that this does respond in the case of using Barrier Shield as its top enhance. This that a edge shot player get some marginal edges. It's a funny hint on the double entendre of edge shot. So because of some complexities, some subtleties in uh, in the specific definition of the transit zone and what counts or doesn't count as entering a zone transition, and just it was judged. Those complex words that I'm very much not interested in getting into in this channel. They decided that this was entering the transit zone wasn't enough of a transition that didn't count as being in the hand, or it still counted as being in the hand or close enough for attitude selector to respond when you removed it as cost. And I feel this is very interesting because actually this is precisely the reason we have a transit zone. If I didn't have a transit zone, this didn't get on a bus, if I said I'm going to play a card from my hand, and then let's say I play a Barrier Shield on a 10 difficulty with 8 cards in my card pool, I fail the check, it's going to move from my hand to my discard pile. That is the definition of discarding a card. And so if we don't have a transit zone, if we don't have a bus to get on, then cards moving from the hand to the discard pile when you fail the control checks for them are cards discarded, and that's just not what we wanted to happen. We wanted it to be to organize things a little differently. That playing a card isn't actually moving from the zone it's in to the zone it's arriving in. It's moving somewhere else first, or it's moving to a different spot. So that when you fail that control check, it's doing something else than going from the hand to the discard pile. It's doing something else from going. And this is a subtle difference because it is moving from the transit zone to the discard pile in this case. It is moving from the transit zone to remove from game pile, and this is just not the complete cycle we get in the other cases. And yeah, I think I'll call it a day. So that's the reason we have a transit zone. That's learning to harden versus loss of consciousness. Why destroy triggers are different than enters the discard pile triggers, and that is also 100 lightning kicks and how it's kind of worse than you think it is because it doesn't burn your opponent unless you actually discard it and unless you actually move it to the discard pile and it kind of stays there because this cleared is in a similar way to it's really kind of the opposite of lost consciousness. We enter the discard pile. That's the second step of the process. That's getting off the bus, and that is just getting off the bus when you have the moving from a origin to a destination. That's kind of your scope is across both of those, and it has to actually complete the journey. And then this is just the first step is when you leave. Relatively few things respond to leaving, and it is a kind of special case where it is actually when you get on the bus, that's the response. That's the time when the bus actually really clearly matters to the situation. And then we have the arrives triggers that are happening simultaneously, coincident with after it's destroyed. So like, if you have lost consciousness and you have responses that are like after you sacrifice foundation, after you destroy foundation, those all triggers at the same time, and so you get a choice of how to order those. But these responses must happen strictly before destroyed or sacrificed or anything like that. These responses are the first game event in the two game events that happen. Um, all right, so that's yeah more than enough time I've got to yap. So thanks for joining me, and if you enjoyed this explainer content, go check out the other rule explainers on my channel, or go watch some other videos or whatever. See ya.